Hello, everyone. Good morning or good afternoon, depending on where you are zooming in from. We've got both here. My name is Kelsey Anderson from Carnegie. Thank you so much for joining us today. We're really excited to have you and our presenters today. So let me share a couple of housekeeping items before we get going. We are recording this session, and because of that, we're going to ask you all to be on mute and off cameras so that those who can't join live can enjoy this content later. But that doesn't mean we don't want you to participate. So feel free to use the Q&A function here in the bottom right, or the chat if you'd like to engage during the session, and questions will be answered either throughout the presentation or we'll save a few minutes at the end. If you need any help during the conference or during this session, you can email marketing@carnegiehighered.com or check out our event hub page for the agenda and live Zoom links at any point. And finally, we encourage you to be social. So feel free to tag us and use the hashtag #TheConnection, and you can tag Carnegie HQ. So with that, I'm very excited for our session today. It is called Ace the Test, Education and Learning on Snapchat. And we've got two wonderful presenters with us today, featuring Stephen Cerebellis and Michelle Young, Manager and Account Strategist of Snapchat's Education Vertical. So with that, I'll pass it on over to them.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Hi, everybody. Thanks for taking the time today to attend today's session with Snap. I'll just quickly introduce myself again. My name's Michelle, and I'm an account strategist on the education vertical here at Snap. And Steve?
Yeah, hi, everybody. Excuse me. My name is Steve Cerebellis, and I am a manager of our EDU vertical here at Snapchat. I'm really excited to be here today.
And I think we're both dialing in from the West Coast, so excuse us if we fumble over any words, and you'll probably see me sipping my coffee throughout. So before hopping into today's content, I wanted to kind of give you a high-level agenda of what we'll be covering. We'll be introducing you to Snapchat and what makes us unique with a community of engaged and eager learners. I'll also introduce you to your future students and then walk through how to set up for success on Snap. And then we'll have some time at the end for questions, but feel free to just kind of throw in questions as they come up. So I wanted to take a step back and introduce, or in some cases, reintroduce you to Snapchat. This is the foundation that our platform was built on, and it continues to be a place where people feel free to be their authentic selves and connect with their friends, family, and ultimately you, the marketers. Here's how I've been an avid Snapchatter since the beginning, and I'm definitely exposing a little bit of my personal life here. Over the years, I've sent snaps of my day-to-day moments like fighting allergies with Kim Kardashian, coffee breaks, as well as huge milestones like my first home, my first dog, his name is Louie, to my network of close friends and family. It's powerful to be able to share my life in those exact moments. But if you're not already familiar, Snapchat isn't just for sharing pictures or moments anymore. It's also grown throughout the years. From the beginning, we've believed in the importance of vertical video designed for mobile. And here's how we've iterated on the ways of video storytelling and the ways in which our users consume and connect with the content. And for those that aren't active users yet, here's what the Snapchat experience looks like now in 2022. There are 5 core screens that are important products for our community and perfect platforms for brands and creators to build upon. And now that we've got you caught up on Snap, let me introduce you to the community that we've grown. The Snapchat generation likes to communicate visually, as you saw from my own examples. They're also early adopters. They're more likely to utilize augmented reality. And you've already heard about how the platform was created. It was designed to spark conversation and deepen connections with your friends. The people you're communicating with daily on the platform are truly your close and loved ones. So it's really not a surprise that Snapchatters value those people and find them to be more influential than celebrities. And the Snapchat generation continues to grow. We're really excited to announce that Snap has officially reached 332 million daily active users on average across the globe. We saw 18% year-over-year growth in our DAUs in Q1 this year, and we only expect this number to continue to grow. For the US specifically, we have a reach of up to 110 million users. We also believe that the pandemic definitely helped play into these numbers because people really wanted to stay connected during a time where most of us were separated quite literally. And I've given you a little bit of a broad view of our audience and how we've grown over the years. I want to dive into the stats around how Snapchatters approach education and think about learning. Snapchatters place significant value in their education. 90% agree that furthering their education is important to them. And they've also shown that education will be important regardless of their age. You can see here that across all demos, the desire to learn exists. And I know we've said this before, but we really mean it when we say that friends and family matter to our community. Other than finances, friends and family have the greatest influence on a Snapchatter's education decision. So be a part of the conversation amongst friends that's helping them determine their future.
Yeah, and just quickly, if I could, Michelle, I just wanted to expand on this a little bit. When you think about sort of what the landscape looks like in terms of social media and in terms of where Snapchat fits into that landscape, I like to think about it like there's room for Snapchat and everything else, and they all kind of function a little bit differently. So, you know, if I think about my Facebook presence, I have a lot of connections on there that are friends from high school, from college that I may not be in contact with every single day. LinkedIn, for example, is, you know, very much a professional network. There's folks on there that I've used to network and build my career. Twitter is, you know, for my source of news. I use it almost every single day. Snapchat are the folks that, you know, you're more or less speaking to on a regular basis, almost every day. People you'd be seeing in your regular life with regularity. And I think that's kind of what makes this unique. If you looked at the number of people that you're communicating with on Snapchat, the number of friends that you are connected to on Snapchat, it's much more likely that that list is going to be a whole lot smaller. And I think that's what fuels this influence, that it is your real friends. It's these real moments that you're sharing across Snapchat to your stories. It's direct communication versus broadcast. And so it does foster that close connection. It's how I stay in touch with my in-laws, frankly, playing with lenses. And so it is a bit of a different experience. It's more of a closed network that is a bit smaller, but very rich. And I think that's kind of what keeps us a little bit different from the pack.
So just kind of on that note of how we foster a different environment and different methods of communication, I want to walk you through what life on Snap looks like for the average student. So meet Ariana, say hi, she's our future student. So the way she uses Snapchat, she's waking up and talking to her friends, binging some of our premium content before the first bell, or you can find her in the group chat catching up on each other's days. And before bed, she's sending snaps to her friends before, you know, another school day starts again. So based on her day alone, it's not surprising that Snapchatters are opening our app over 30 times a day. That's 30 different opportunities for you to reach and engage your target audience here. Ariana is part of the 90% of 13 to 24-year-olds in the US that Snapchat is able to reach. She's also part of the audience that's unique to Snapchat. Here's the number of Snapchatters age 16 and up that are active and engaged on our app every single day that may not necessarily be found on other popular platforms. And I know that the last few years have introduced us to everyone's least favorite phrase now, unprecedented times. But the majority of the unique audience we talked about haven't changed their plans when it comes to pursuing a degree. And just to make sure, we did a pulse check. As we kind of navigate away or try to navigate away from the pandemic, we ran a survey around goals for the year. You can see that our users are considering new careers. They're looking into online classes, and they're also interested in enrolling in a degree program. The appetite and demand are here, and it's up to you to provide the supply. So let's talk a little bit about what that looks like, how and where you can appear on Snapchat, and the different ways that you can deliver success. It's important to remember Snapchat is a place to create, consume, and discover. Viewing is a natural behavior on our platform. Snapchatters want new intel from friends, the latest updates on the world, and they want to be entertained. So here are the different ways a Snapchatter can connect with you on our app. Essentially, it's broken down into within their camera or within the content. We have solutions that can address every objective from awareness down to something lower funnel or conversion based like signups or enrollment. During the 30 minutes plus that the average user is spending on the app, or during one of the 30 times they open up Snapchat, you can appear between friends' stories, or when Ariana's binge watching some of her favorite shows. Maybe she's taking a selfie for her friends and you can reach her with an AR lens or a filter. Steve will get a little bit more depth into our in-camera formats later on, and we'll kind of examine one of our best-in-class advertiser who utilized an AR lens. So when we talked about the origins of Snapchat, we talked about the importance of our vertical platform. So in Discover, where our commercial units live, the average user spends 30 minutes consuming videos. The ads featured here are non-skippable. And that's important because the brand awareness and ad awareness achieved here is unmatched. It's a full screen takeover opportunity where you have the user's full undivided attention.
Yeah, and just to jump in here really quick, Michelle, too, and I'm not sure if it's feasible to go back to that original 5-panel slide, but just so everyone's on the same page here. So the 5 screens of Snapchat, thank you for that, Michelle. 5 screens of Snapchat we talked about earlier. When you open up the app, for those of you that aren't familiar, you open up directly to the camera. And there are those 2 different sides on either side of the deck, on either side of the app. On the left-hand side, when you swipe to the left, you're going to see your direct chats with your friends. This is where you're going to communicate with folks. And on the right, when you swipe over to the right, you're going to go into our Discover section. So our Discover section is actually chock full of content that's coming from all sorts of different recognizable media companies. We have shows in there that we produce ourselves and also in tandem with, the major networks. We have an ESPN Sports Center show. We have an e-news show that's sort of your daily dose of, celebrity gossip. We also have our own shows, which are both fiction and nonfiction. And this is all together called our Discover section. We've placed a ton of resources in developing this content, and it's actually content that's unique to Snapchat. What we've found is that a lot of partners, whether it's Viacom or it's NBC, they're having trouble finding this demographic on traditional television, on cable. People are just not watching cable TV the same way that they used to, and this generation in particular. And so what they've found is that on Snapchat, they do have an opportunity to reach this audience in a really effective way. And so this Discover section, which is where a lot of your ads and a lot of your content would appear, is an area where it's kind of a lean back experience. It's where you're consuming content. It looks a little bit more produced. It's also crowdsourced from users around the globe. We have partnerships with, the major sports leagues. So there is the sharing, the camera, and I'm going to get into the camera a little bit later. And that's kind of how you take advantage of the social aspect of the app. You open up to the camera every time, but there is a lot of time and consumption being spent in this Discover section where you're watching stories that are coming from both recognized brands, your friends' stories, etc. And that's these three units on the right. That's where those are going to show up. The units on the left are within the camera. And again, that's the augmented reality stuff. I'll be getting into that a little bit later, but for the sake of these 3 ads here, on the right, that's the Discover section we're talking about. So if you haven't downloaded Snapchat, I'd encourage you to go check out that content. It's a lot of fun, whether it's the Daily Mail and your latest Kardashian update, or it's, coming from the New York Times. So I'll stop there. Michelle, take the mic.
I'm just gonna blow pull my own spot up, but I'm definitely a guilty binge watcher of the Daily Mail on Snapchat. Steve might be getting his news from Twitter, but I'm definitely getting my news from Daily Mail. What that says about me, I don't know. We can have that as part of the Q&A as well. So just to kind of take you back to what we were talking about, that full screen takeover power. So we have the in-camera solutions as well as the in-content. And the reason we bring that up is when we combine our different ad formats, we found that we can drive better performance on Snap. When running multiple formats, we see a 2.3x higher conversion lift than single ad products. And users that are exposed to multiple formats are twice as likely to drive significant purchase intent. So we also find that running multiple formats allows for increased brand lift because you're able to reach Snapchatters wherever they are in the app. Steve kind of ran you through the different places that the ads can live. So you're expanding your reach. So
Yeah.
more of like, oh, sorry.
Sorry, not to keep interjecting here, but I think it's an important point. With the different ways you can use Snapchat, I think to underscore the increased kind of reach and penetration you get into our overall audience, some people log into Snapchat and use it purely to do the AR experiences. My sister-in-law is a great example of this with her young kids. They love to play with, the different lenses and the carousel. That's not somebody who's watching the Daily Mail like Michelle or myself every single day. There's some people that download Snapchat and pretty much exclusively watch the shows and the content in there. And so if there are, and with the different products that we offer, by limiting yourself, I think, to one inventory source, you're actually leaving quite a bit of audience on the table, depending on how different folks are using the app and what the profile of those folks look like. So that is, I think, one of the reasons why a key driver of why we find better performance when you're able to combine the products. And so definitely, recommend considering at least both the camera and a content strategy within Snap. And here's the proof. The proof is in the pudding, so to speak.
Well said. So as you know by now, hopefully that the appetite and the users exist on our platform. So I wanted to kind of just guide you through the different targeting options that are available. We can definitely utilize your own CRM data. We also have the ability to develop pixel audiences. We can also do engagement audiences based on certain ads that the users have viewed in the past. We also offer our own unique audience targeting solution, which is the Snap lifestyle categories. We can also build lookalikes, balanced or broad, and we can utilize a new organic product that we just rolled out called Public Profiles. It's a home for your brand to live, and we can target subscribers or those that have interacted with your profile. And I think that's really important because someone that's engaging with you and the brand organically, there's clearly high interest as well as high intent there. So I think that's a really valuable targeting solution that everybody should be utilizing. And as we mentioned before, we have the ability to optimize at every stage of the marketing funnel to help hit all of your campaign KPIs. So we have everything from upper funnel, whether it's impressions, swipes, or video views, down to the lower funnel optimizations like signups and purchases. And then I'm going to let Steve kind of take over from here and talk a little bit more about augmented reality.
Great. Thank you, Michelle. So thanks for walking us through that, Michelle. I think that's a great primer on kind of how Snapchat is operating and, what our status is as a business. And, particularly with regard to, the education space and how people are using it. And so I kind of wanted to take it back and give you a glimpse into, or just kind of reveal a bit of what have we been up to? What have we been building for the last, 10 years since our inception? And what are we building towards? What does the next 5 to 10 years for us look like? And so this kind of, cheeky phrase here, your world augmented, obviously speaks to what is a big focus for us, which is augmented reality and the camera itself. So I'm going to take it back to the camera for a second. I'm going to go to the next slide, Michelle. So I'm going to take it back to the camera. And I mentioned this earlier, but within the 5 screens of Snapchat, you have, you have the maps, you have chat, you have Discover, we have Spotlight, which is where we, feature user-generated content. But really the key source, or the key component of what makes Snapchat unique is our camera. Every single time you open up Snapchat, it goes to the camera. Even if you leave the app for 1 second to check your text messages or whatever it is, if you go back to Snapchat, it's going to open back up to the camera. People are really compelled, I think, for that reason, to be creating a ton of content, sending it to and from their friends. That's why you see the app being so sticky, and why people are creating billions of snaps every single day. But that being said, the camera has really become our new home screen. And that's kind of what we've taken, that's the truth that we've sort of focused on and decided to run with here at Snap. I know I'm not alone. If you've been to any tourist destination, or you've been out on to pretty much anywhere where people are enjoying themselves, what do? They have the phone in their hand, they have their camera out, they're taking pictures with their friends, they're sending it to their friends, and they're using those as keepsakes. So recognizing that people are spending all that time in the camera, Snapchat has really been spending the last several years developing this camera and creating it into a much more utilitarian type of experience. So many of you may not know this, but the Snap camera can actually Shazam songs. We can scan Snap codes to unlock different experiences or send people to websites, like on the side of that Coke bottle right there you see. You can obviously play with the AR lenses with the puppy face right there, one of our iconic ones, but you can also use our camera now to scan different objects, whether it's scanning scanning a Coke bottle and getting a price for it on Amazon, or it's scanning an apple and getting recipes from All Recipes on apples. You can also scan the trees or the plants that you have around you. It'll show you what the type of plant that is, so that you can go out to your local nursery and buy it. We really see the camera as this tool that can be used to solve and add value to real world situations. And Michelle kind of jumped right here to this slide, but I also thought what's kind of unique to this particular audience, I don't know if teachers are going to get mad at us for having built this, but we can even solve math problems. So if you take out Snapchat with your hand right now, and you just held down onto the screen with your thumb, it would start to scan whatever you're looking at, and it would show you basically a visual search results of different things. If you had a math problem written out, it would actually solve that math problem for you. So the idea here is that the camera is the home screen. People are using the camera every single day. And how can Snapchat help use augmented reality to add to, to add to the world around them, and have it be an additive experience versus a completely virtual experience? And so when we think about the development of the product that we've been building, it really has been sinking resources into developing this technology and moving it towards the future. If you want to jump forward, Michelle.
Sorry about that. I got way too excited about solving math problems.
It's pretty cool. So with that being said, we fundamentally believe that every business needs a camera strategy. And, part of the reason for that is because, there's a couple points I want to make here. One is that Snapchatters in general are used to using the camera. They're used to opening up and seeing the camera every single day, and they're used to using AR. And because this is the entry point to the app itself, before they're going to go watch content, before they're going to go check their chats, before they're going to go check their friends' stories, this is a great place to do something really cool, engaging, and creative to drive high share rates, get them to share it into organic chats, and also get really strong engagement with fun experiences that don't look and feel like things that you're going to experience elsewhere. And it's a user behavior that our users expect. And so that's why, we feel like, and actually, as I said before, the proof is in the pudding. Our products interact better when they're together. And this is kind of your first opportunity to reach that user and let them know about your brand, provide a fun, engaging experience. And so with that being said, AR isn't the future, it's here. I think, I started at Snapchat about 5.5 years ago. And I think my very first meeting was with Charles Schwab. And the first question they asked me was, how are puppy ears on on my head going to help me get people open up, brokerage accounts. And, fair enough point. 5.5 years ago, I think we were still figuring out what that strategy is. But, today we have people using augmented reality an insane amount every single day. And it's not the future, it's here. It's in the news constantly. You'll see pretty much everybody in the space is trying to catch up to where we are in terms of, driving this user behavior and giving brands the opportunity to actually take part in this. We've created some really awesome solutions and some turnkey executions that, have lowered the bar to entry to something that seems a little bit, more complicated to build. That seems like, I, as a marketer, I don't even know where to begin to build an augmented reality. We are here to help with that. And you'll see that pretty much every major brand, tons of schools, tons of different educational institutions, as well as companies across the spectrum have been leaning into this as a way to, to drive engagement and, ultimately conversions. I mentioned this in the chat, but if you get somebody playing with your lens here, you can actually retarget them and push them further down the funnel, ultimately to a conversion, to a sign up, whatever it is that your KPI is looking for. But the point being here, it's not in the future. It looks futuristic, but it's here, and we're here to help you build it. So just a couple quick stats. People interact with AR lenses on Snapchat 6 billion times a day. I mentioned this insane number before, but 6 billion. I mean, that's a little bit less the number of people in the world, which is kind of hard to believe. I mean, that's 9 zeros if I'm doing my math correctly. Maybe I need Snapchat to help me with that. But that is just a ton of interaction. That's a ton of time spent with lenses, which goes beyond even this number. And like I said, this is user behavior that's ingrained in our audience. This is where a lot of people are using AR. They might not be using it other places, but they are using it on Snapchat. 250,000 creators have built lenses, and 2.5 million lenses that have been viewed by those 250 million creators, and that's 5 trillion times that they've been played with. So it's a little bit of an interesting progression there. But I think, what I want to underscore here is what our vision for the company is to empower creators to use to build AR themselves. Snapchat can't be the only person that's building AR. And if we're betting on augmented reality as being this next computing revolution, which our CEO firmly believes, and that's, we're planting our stake in the ground. What we need are people out there and our most creative types using AR, creating AR. And so as a result, what we've built kind of as a starting point was our Lens Studio. And you can think of Lens Studio as essentially like Adobe Photoshop, but for building augmented reality. It's free to download. If you're a creative type, you can download that and and go start building AR from scratch. We also have something for those folks that are in advertising that you can build lenses on Lens Web Builder. So this is kind of like the easiest way to build lenses. We take the best organic assets that we have that people engage with on a regular basis, and we've drawn them into an experience where you can pull those different assets. You can upload your logo. You can have a lens built and as quickly as 5 minutes. And I've done this before myself. I'm not a technical person, but I swear it's pretty easy. And so democratizing augmented reality is a huge part of our strategy, empowering creators. If you go into Snapchat right now, you can search through all the lenses that everyone's built and have been uploaded, and then the creativity in there is just impressive. Speaking a little bit more about sort of, how this can affect your business. If you add AR to an execution, it can ultimately have a 50% more efficient median cost per incremental action intent. So it's a lot of marketing words in there, but I think the main point here is that, augmented reality helps you tap into an incremental audience. It helps drive incremental reach and ultimately engagement, and a first touch point to help you drive your customers further down the funnel. So just wanted to talk quickly here about, Kent State. So Kent State's one that they came to us they wanted to reach students aged 16 to 18 interested in pursuing college degrees. So somebody asked a question earlier, if we can drill down further from 13 to 24. Obviously, we can do that. Kent State came to us and asked us to help them do that. So we put together a campaign for them. They asked us to build awareness of Kent State and drive prospective students to complete applications. And so what we did was we built them this lens. We took a multi-product approach, combining AR lenses and Snap Ads. Snap Ads, again, being sort of the nuclear unit of Snapchat. This is basically a snap itself, something that you might send to a friend or to your story, but you as a school or as a brand would be creating snaps, vertical video, and we would combine that campaign with an AR lens, both running concurrently, 24% lower cost per signup versus the goal that they had given us. And we really believe that that's because we had a multi-product approach. We were able to reach users in different parts of the app, in different mindsets, and ultimately get them to sign up.
So here's just a sample of what that looked like. I think it was it resonated with a lot of people because it kind of just helped you envision yourself as a Kent State grad, which I think just is a strategy that works across like multiple verticals, not just limited to education, especially when it comes to the world of AR. So we know that the audience is there, as well as the different strategies and the methods to reach them. And guess what? This audience is currently in their critical decision phase. Only 20% of Snapchatters aged 13 to 17 have already enrolled. So with the reach and significant opportunity to influence this valuable audience, the time is definitely now to get in front of them. So just some takeaways we want to leave you with. Snapchat was built for what matters to a unique generation that we've shown you. We have an active community of engaged and committed learners. We also have the tools to get the people that matter the most discovering and engaging with you. And lastly, Snapchat's here to help your story resonate and scale with the right audience. So again, thank you guys so much for your time today. I just threw up our Snap handles. So if you guys are Snapchatters, feel free to find us there. And then we'll hand it back over to Kelsey.
Yeah, thank you guys so much. We had a couple of questions come in throughout your presentation that I'd love to throw over to you with the last few minutes here. There were some questions about resources. Would love to know how to create a filter for our program. Are there any free online resources? Various apps were mentioned to walk users and advertisers through a how-to guide. Any insight to share there?
Yeah, so I can speak to the first portion. So I think there was a question about filters. So just to clarify, so filters are going to be your post capture unit. So that's, you take a photo, you overlay it onto the photo. This was kind of where we started. Oftentimes geo filters, you can kind of draw a geofence. So say you draw a geofence around your school, and I think there's an example of it right there, the second one. You can still do that. So you can go online, just any private citizen, do an on-demand geo filter, and we can send out links to this afterwards to be shared. But you basically would go and you would look at a map, you would draw around where you would want to have the filter be placed, and anytime anybody enters into that area, they would have that in their carousel. You can also just create filters and run them as you would any other ad, target them the same way. These are really just PNG files. They're quite simple and pretty lightweight. In terms of the lenses, I mentioned this before, but Lens Studio is something you can download right now for free, and you can play around with it. It's a bit more technical, but you can upload assets into it. Lens Web Builder is available within the ads manager in Snapchat. You can set up an ads manager and, not run ads, but you can go play around with Lens Web Builder if you'd like. That's a much more simple, like kind of entry-level experience, I would say. Those are the two different ways you can do it. And in terms of resources on how to use Snapchat, we definitely have a business help center. I know we also have, sort of a Snapchat advertising certification that you can take if you want to do that from a business standpoint. The app itself, from a consumer standpoint, I think if you downloaded it today, and I've had it on my phone for quite some time, but I feel like the onboarding experience has evolved quite a bit to sort of, draw you to different portions of the app, and it'll pop up bubbles to teach you how to use it. But I can't say for certain if there's a organic kind of teaching session, but my advice to you would be to download it, just play around with it. It's fairly intuitive. And there's always YouTube. There's a YouTube for everything. So somebody on there could probably walk you through it as well, or Michelle or I.
Hear, hear. Thank you. Another question came through and really just kind of a couple of questions around advertising based on various ages. We had a couple of questions come through about advertising under 18, how you can split up and do subsets of advertising too. And then a recent question that just came in: what are the demographics like for adult learners, students in their 30s or 40s versus 16 to 18-year-olds, if you have any information at the top of your head there?
That's a tough one. I do know that I think one of the things I want to just kind of like take a step back and address is, I think people have this misconception of Snap being like a Gen Z or a very young skewing audience. But the thing is, I think I'm a great example of someone that's grown up with the app. So we definitely have adult learners that are present. We have a healthy amount of 35 plus present on the app and engaged. So we know that the learners are there. As for specific stats around it, not off the top of my head, but happy to follow up with additional information.
Yeah, I can just speak quickly to that. While that is very much a strength for us, which is this kind of younger demographic and what would fit into a younger student sort of category, our audience, 25% of our audience is 35 plus, and we reach 90 million people in the US. So there's a pretty substantial portion of our audience which does skew a bit older. And we can kind of follow up and see if we can find some information, particularly about that adult learner audience. But I'd say the general profile of a Snap user in terms of how they're using it and with the AR or how they're consuming content on there does tend to be somewhat similar once you get out of that teenage category. I'd say something that's really interesting is if you see somebody using Snapchat out in the wild and they're in that teen or young adult kind of age, if you looked at their map, and I know this from looking at my nieces and nephews, everyone's sharing their location with each other. That's kind of the map that they use. You can see your Bitmoji of your friends wherever they are in the map. And so, I'd have to imagine that a 35 plus or 30 plus audience might not have, hundreds of friends sharing their location on the map and, using that the same way. So there might be some differences in how they're using it, but in terms of the profile of the learner, we can dig in a little more on that.
That sounds great. Well, I just want to take a second to thank you for your time today and leading this presentation. Lots of helpful information. We have just a couple of housekeeping items. I just put in the chat the connection schedule, so don't forget to join us for future sessions. Next week, we'll have access to all of the recordings, so if you missed anything, you can access it at a later time. And don't forget to be social. Use hashtag #TheConnection and reach out to us. Thank you all so much.